Welcome to Offscreen. This week we're reading Deadpool by Rhett, Reese, and Paul Wernick. A former Special Forces operative turned mercenary is subjected to a rogue experiment that leaves him with accelerated healing powers, adopting the alter ego, Deadpool. So these writers are probably best known for Zombieland, which they wrote and I believe also produced.
Okay.
They're high school friends that have been working together for 15 years. They also
Wow.
wrote G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Okay.
They also created, wrote, and produced the Joe Schmo Show, which was a reality TV show for Spike TV that was apparently pretty popular.
Oh, okay.
And they've written a handful of other things, both together and independently. So pretty varied resume for them.
Cool.
That's enough of their backstory, right?
Okay. They usually do action-y stuff, I would say, is what it seems like. And...
Yeah, they've written some like animated movies though too, like Clifford's really big movie. Apparently they worked on some Pixar and Walt Disney animation movies as well.
I can't even begin to reconcile that because this script is extremely adult in nature.
Yeah.
And
well,
what? There's no...
I see what you're saying when you use the word adult. I might quibble with it. Adult.
It's at once very adult and very childish, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But, alright.
Do you want to hop into the summary?
Yeah,
first of all, we should say it's just like a superhero movie, like an origin story.
Right, sure.
But a very self-aware one that's kind of commenting on...
And we've seen Deadpool in a few other movies, I think. I know of just at least one that I've seen.
Really?
Where he's made an appearance. It was in one of the Wolverine movies. You know how he had,
Wolverine Origins?
I think
they allude to that
so.
Or they mention that in the script.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but anyway. Okay, wow, maybe it's not funny, I guess.
It's not funny. Next time, come to me before you say something.
Okay.
Whether something is funny or not.
All right, well, can I read my synopsis?
Yeah.
Okay. Wade Wilson works as a killer for hire. He's part of a whole crew which operates out of a seedy bar called Sister Margaret's. These guys are so ruthless they even keep bets on who among them will be the next to die. It's all written on a chart above the bar, the Deadpool. One night at Sister Margaret's, Wade meets a stripper named Vanessa. He starts out as a client, becomes a regular, and over the course of a year, the two have fallen in love. That's just when Wade learns he has cancer. A lot of cancer. Not wanting Vanessa to see him in this state, he leaves her. Desperate for a cure, Wade agrees to let a man named Ajax try out an experimental treatment on him. In fact, the mad doctor only wants to torture him within an inch of his life. When Wade finally manages to escape, it's only in the hopes of killing himself. But try as he might, Wade keeps surviving his suicide attempts. He finds that his body can now heal itself extremely quickly, even growing back lost limbs. After another visit to Sister Margaret's, inspiration strikes and he adopts the alter ego, Deadpool. Donning his trademark costume and katanas, Deadpool sets out on a mission to find and kill Ajax. Of course, the doctor has kidnapped his girl in the meantime. Wade storms the luxurious penthouse where he's holding her hostage, killing countless guards before one final showdown. Deadpool ultimately kills Ajax, but in his dying breath, he confesses that there was another doctor behind it all, a Dr. Killebrew. He's the one responsible for the experiments. Deadpool shoots Ajax and gets the girl, but now his mission for vengeance has just begun.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information to get across.
Was it?
The script, I feel like, moves really quickly and
jumps back and forth between the past and the present.
Yeah, which I didn't hate as much as I usually do.
Oh, yeah?
I thought it was okay here. It kept it really interesting, and I would say it was kind of cool that it wasn't just like jumping back and forth between timelines. It got a little confusing at times, but mostly it was just like one really extended action sequence that it kept coming back to a lot. So that kind of helped it not to feel too scattered. You always have that anchor point, that same scene that we keep coming back to. So that was kind of cool. And man, what an action sequence it is. Like the very beginning, like the first 10 pages are dominated by this like extremely elaborate action sequence, which I thought was pretty awesome to read. I thought it was cool.
You're talking about when Deadpool tries to...
Well, Ajax, I guess it is, has just gotten out of prison, right?
Ajax has just gotten out of prison, yeah.
And so
he's being
like
escorted in like a caravan of SUVs and motorcycles.
Right, and so Deadpool goes to meet them, and they clash like in the middle of this huge freeway interchange. And it does a lot of that. Well, this is throughout the whole script. Every time there's like a fight scene, it will go back and forth between slow-mo a lot, and then it'll just like completely freeze at times. And a lot of times when it's frozen, Deadpool will just like turn to camera, break the fourth wall, and he'll have some little snarky line or something. And then the action will resume. I do agree that was a little overdone. They did it too many times.
I looked this up. Do you know how long people have been breaking the fourth wall?
No.
Since the 1700s. Since the mid-1700s.
Okay, so?
It's just, like, if that's the selling point of the screenplay, that it's self-aware and he's winking at us about how dumb this is as it's happening.
Well, it
is dumb. Maybe he's not winking about that. But also, I just don't see the point. I don't know.
Also, I don't know if we can fault the writers for that, because I think that's a very, like, important aspect of the comic books.
Right, apparently.
Is that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And
though I think that depends on which version...
Okay, well...
which period of time the comic book was being written, because I think some writers were about that and others weren't.
And neither of us is super familiar with, like, the comic book lore. All the
apparently neither were Reese and Wernick before getting the assignment.
Well, presumably they did a lot of research.
They did a lot of research, yeah. No, I was reading their AMA.
Okay.
And they were saying that Ryan Reynolds approached them and a number of other screenwriters.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds approached them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they apparently collaborated pretty closely with him.
Okay.
So
you thought it was kind of dumb, huh? Is that an understatement?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, man.
I don't like stuff like this. I'm not the target audience at all. It's
what
just
do you mean,
like
what
empty,
do you mean stuff like this?
Empty, glorified, stylized violence that isn't a commentary or critique of the violence or an examination. It's really just masturbatory. And like literally in the screenplay, Deadpool says, after the initial sequence that we're talking about.
Yep.
Where he attacks like a whole caravan of armored cars with bad guys inside, and goes like 1 on 35
just
and kills all of them.
Slaughters all these dudes.
That kind of culminates with him needlessly shooting a dead guy twice just because he's angry. And oh no, he only has 1 bullet left now. But oh, there's suddenly 3 guys. What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
He's gonna jump so they're all in a straight line, parallel to one another, and then he's gonna shoot them, but that bullet's gonna go through 2.5 of them.
Right.
So he's gonna kill all 3.
Yeah. I thought that you were gonna say...
No, I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. And after that, he says, yeah, I'm definitely touching myself tonight.
Yeah.
This is like written for a 12-year-old boy with like a lap full of Jergens. It's disgusting. It's appalling. It's incredibly offensive. The first two scenes are... The first scene with the Indian cab driver is pretty insulting in and of itself.
Yeah, it was pretty like...
Where the whole joke is that this Indian guy doesn't know who Deadpool is, can't pronounce his name.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we get to the description of the people in the caravan. And they're described, and he's speaking in Spanish to them for some reason.
Yeah,
and then they're referred to as thugs. When show me one time in the history of like the world that a white person's ever been called a thug. It never
specifies what race
it doesn't.
They are.
But I think we can assume.
Do you think they're actually racist? These writers?
No, but I don't think they're consciously racist. But this is a racist screenplay. And it's a very sexist screenplay.
But
it presents these things. It presents those points of view that just given from the first scene, and this is the second scene, the movie's all about othering people that aren't Deadpool or the audience that's in on the joke that Deadpool is this super badass guy.
Uh-huh.
And look at these schmucks. They're not Deadpool. They don't even know who Deadpool is. It's just exceedingly stupid. And I found zero things redeeming about this.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yikes. I don't even want to say how I felt about it. I wasn't crazy about it. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed reading it. I thought it was kind of fun. It was refreshing to me. Hold on.
Okay.
I can see you rolling your eyes, but...
You need a sip of water. You
yeah, you do. You do. Maybe pour it over your head.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was at least kind of refreshing that, okay, yeah, it's very ridiculous, really over-the-top violence, very exaggerated, but
right.
I get kind of sick of all these superhero movies that, at least recently, there's been more of a trend towards, like, grittiness, and it's trying to seem kind of, like, real and raw, and I think they're trying to make it seem believable for, obviously some really out there kind of material, these comic books, but this one does not make any attempt to like try and seem believable. It just completely embraces the absurdity of it, and that was kind of refreshing to me at least.
But it's not really refreshing. We have like dozens of these movies. We have Kick-Ass. We have Kick-Ass 2. We have Wanted. We have a whole list. I could go on and on.
Don't get Steven started on the movie Wanted.
We have a whole, with just ridiculously stylized violence that's so over the top and so self-congratulating. I believe you. When I believe that they think that they're doing something subversive by just really foregrounding the absurdity of it and pushing it, turning the knob to 11. But, like, that's not a clever idea. We've seen that countless times. We've seen that just as many times as we've seen bad Zack Snyder movies that are all very serious where he blows up all of New York City. It's just trying to be as offensive as possible, and it comes across to me at least, that it thinks that just being offensive for the sake of being offensive is somehow subversive or somehow some sort of critique of the genre that is worthwhile to make.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know if it is some sort of critique, it's a tired, empty, stupid one in my opinion.
I wasn't trying to see it in any way like that.
I just don't. I can't.
Let's take a step back.
I can't get. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I can't get on board with these types of movies because they just revel in how awful they are, and they feel self-congratulatory for their awfulness. And I'm not a prude. I'm not opposed to violence. I really like Quentin Tarantino's movies, but his cinema is entirely different because in each of his movies, that yes, they're about revenge, or yes, they feature revenge, but they are about revenge. They're about revenge as a tool both for the catharsis for the viewer and more societally speaking, especially his last several.
Now, for the record, I think Quentin Tarantino will be the first to tell you that he thinks of his action and his violence in his movies as kind of masturbatory. Like,
right,
I've heard
but it's
him
contextualized very differently than this.
I've heard him characterize it that way.
There's reasons beyond that.
Uh-huh.
It's like in Django Unchained, we see it devolves into this completely absurd fantasy, but that fantasy is constructed within a historical reality, even if it isn't a historical reality that actually transpired.
Uh-huh. So
the movie becomes about the importance about revenge as like cultural healing or an examination of revenge in a cultural sense. This is nothing. This is just wanton slaughter.
Okay.
I got off on a big tangent and we can cut all this.
No, that's fine, but I think we should take a step back a little bit because I just want to point out, you said Ryan Reynolds approached these two guys. It is just a job at the end of the day though, and these two guys didn't even know about Deadpool. This is just a fun project for them that I'm sure they're getting a lot of money for it too. But like at the end of the day,
this isn't making it sound any better.
I'm just trying to say, like, I don't think they're trying to make any kind of grandiose statement here. I don't think that they were trying super hard to be clever. I think they were trying to just stay true to the spirit of the comic book. And a lot of these things that you're complaining about, I don't think are necessarily critiques of the writers. Right. I don't think it's their fault.
In my opinion, I know, I see what you're saying. Continue.
Okay.
Sorry, I won't interrupt.
No, that was it. I mean, I just think we should distinguish that your rant has more to do, I think, with the source material than
But
the writer's
in
approach
my
to it.
opinion, the source material is worthless and is not worth making. They chose to make it,
If you
so
had to make
they are
it,
responsible.
because
They are
okay.
They are at least a little bit responsible
Yeah.
because they chose to write
Agreed.
it. Right?
But let's, if you had to make it, which we have to make all of these movies nowadays, we've got to do
don't.
every franchise.
No, we don't.
I know. But I'm just saying, this was almost inevitable that they were going to do this, and like, if you had to make a Deadpool movie, I just try to take each script on its own terms, and a lot of these things came with the territory, and so I gave it a pass because I know that has to be part of what you're doing when you write a Deadpool movie.
But they didn't have to write a Deadpool movie.
I know. I think we got
the world doesn't need a Deadpool movie. I won't accept it on its own terms because I reject those terms. Like, what if we wanted to make a Hitler movie? Like, that doesn't mean it's worth doing. And it doesn't mean that it's good. Like, making something that's supposed to be fascist and ugly and making it fascist and ugly, like, I'm not giving you a pat on the back for that.
Okay.
Just drop your pen and write something else.
Okay.
The world is a better place without a Deadpool movie. Even though this somehow is getting good reviews and they've already greenlit the sequel. But Wanted got halfway decent reviews too. And apparently the world sucks. So,
gosh.
Depressed.
Can we like shift criticisms to like the actual like structure of the story, or like
Sure.
because there is plenty of that too. I think there are plenty of problems with the actual plot.
I hate it so much.
Oh my gosh.
I hate Deadpool.
Okay.
I hate the posters. I haven't seen the trailer. Or maybe I have seen the trailer.
I'm gonna just
Okay,
start
can I talk about something about the structure of it?
Are you going to really this time, or are you going to veer into
Well, let me see.
another rant?
I've got so much. I think the past-present flashbacks, you kind of lose the stakes of the past because you know that he's going to be alive in the present. You know that the character also can't die. He's literally regenerating limbs.
I don't think that's a valid criticism because, you pretty much know that in every superhero movie. You pretty much know they're not going to die.
Right, because it's also a pretty conventional origin story too.
Yeah, so I don't think the intercutting really like screwed that up. That was already again part of the territory for me. I knew he wasn't going to die. Okay. So those stakes were not there.
Okay.
From the beginning. But,
so how do they effectively raise the stakes when you know how that's going to end?
I think the stakes, as much as like normally in a superhero movie, you would think the stakes should be life or death. It's all like very action oriented, but really I think good superhero movies make the stakes more about personal things, which in this case for him, it's a matter of whether he can find this guy. And I didn't mention this in the synopsis, but his goal kind of is to find Ajax and make him
give him some plastic surgery.
Fix him basically so he doesn't look so gruesome and like scarred and gross anymore, because he wants to find Vanessa again, and he's afraid that she won't love him anymore if she sees what he looks like.
That's some really profound character motivation there.
Granted, it's a very superficial thing, and I think that's part of his like flaw as a character, which they acknowledge to some extent, that like he is thinking about this in really superficial terms. But those to me are the stakes. It's whether he can get the girl back, whether he can fulfill this.
Well, he never really loses a girl. He just goes away from her. And then maybe with 15 pages left, she gets kidnapped?
Yeah, but I think, does she think he's dead? I assume that she, when he first left her, she just didn't see him anymore. She probably thought he was dead.
I don't know. Apparently there's no other jobs for women other than to be strippers or prostitutes.
Oh, boy. I want to keep to the plot stuff, the structure stuff, not any politics or whatever. Because I think my biggest problem with this, on a story level, is that the bad guys, I don't care about the bad guys, and I don't really know what their goal is. Like Ajax, he just experiments on all these dudes, and like, to what end? I don't know. Well, they kind of explain that he's trying to build like an army of mercenaries to overpower the team of mercenaries that Wade was originally a part of. He just wants to muscle out the competition. So Ajax builds all these like crazy super villains that are like, one of them's sort of like a cyborg, one of them is just like super muscular. He's got this whole crew, and they just like slaughter all of the other mercenaries that Wade formerly worked with. That's his whole scheme. It seems really lame to me.
Yes.
And it also seems lame to me that I'm supposed to think that he's evil for wanting to do this, which is the same thing that Wade was already doing.
Right.
So, like,
And
how is Wade not also just as evil?
Wade consented to this as well, right? He was like...
To the experiments and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was also a weak point for me. I don't know, like, how Ajax found him, like, why he chose him. It didn't make any sense, the whole agreement. Why
would he want to turn him into a mercenary if he was trying to kill the rest of his mercenary buddies?
Yeah. Also, why the heck did Ajax wait to tell Deadpool about this other doctor until the very end? Like this whole time Wade is on a mission to kill Ajax. Ajax could have pretty easily been like, whoa, dude, slow down. You don't want to kill me. I wasn't even the one responsible. Like, he could have saved himself a lot of trouble if he just told Deadpool in the beginning, like, no, it's this other doctor.
Yeah.
I don't want to risk alienating a bunch of our listeners, but
yeah.
I don't like Ryan Reynolds. I think it's for kind of the same reason.
I think a lot of people don't like Ryan Reynolds.
But I think it's for the same reasons that make him perfect for this role, which are that, to me, he's always kind of winking at the camera anyway, in the way that he talks and carries himself, his whole demeanor, and he never fully commits to me. It's the same problem I have with Emma Stone, which I said we were gonna alienate some people. I know everyone loves her.
Well, I love Emma Stone, so
I get that same vibe from her, though. I feel like she's never fully in it.
I'd be down to watch a Ryan Reynolds Emma Stone rom-com. Probably already exists. Did you see Definitely Maybe with Ryan Reynolds and Abigail Breslin? It was pretty good.
Should we get to the verdicts? We've already.
I want to say more negative things about it.
We only have so much time, Steven.
Okay, you go first.
Or
I'll go first.
I'll
pass on both.
Yeah, well, surprise, surprise. Yeah. I definitely want to consider the writers. Yeah, maybe a pass. Yeah, it's a pass on the script for me too. There were too many big structural problems, like I said, about the.
How? Can I ask a question about the writers?
Okay.
Like I know you want to judge it on its own terms. Like they had, like you're gonna assume that someone had to write a Deadpool movie. I'm wondering how this Deadpool movie could have been worse.
I think it captured the spirit, from what I understand, captured the spirit of the character really well. The plot stuff, the mechanics of the story, not so much.
Yeah.
But I think they did a good job with what they had to do, with what the job was. And I don't think this is my favorite assignment for them to get. I would much rather see them take on other things, but I mean,
we know they're talented.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Zombieland's a good movie, I think, right?
Yeah, I liked it. But yeah, I think they did a good enough job with what they had that I would consider them. So it's a pass on the script, but I will consider the writers.
Right, that's fair.
All right. Let's just
read
whatever you want. What do you want to read next week?
This is just tough. And we have Kanye making offensive tweets. It's a really
that has nothing to do with the show.
With the show?
With the podcast, Kanye.
It just informs my state of mind.
That's what it is.
I'm in a bad place between
between
this screenplay and now Kanye. I have to reconcile.
I want to actually explain, because you said before you came over that you had a really rough day. And I was concerned, like, oh man, what happened? Like, was it at work? Is it like a personal thing? And you came over and you told me that Kanye made a dumb tweet about Bill Cosby, and that just ruined your whole day.
Well, I was being a little hyperbolic, but...
Well, I think it put you in a pretty bad mood for this script also.
No, I was already in the bad mood before I read the tweet because of the script.
All right. Okay, next week we're reading another Blacklist script. It's called, well, it doesn't have a title. It says Untitled Sociopath Project by Topher Reese Lawrence. A successful New Yorker's seemingly perfect life starts unraveling once he's suspected for the murder of his coworker and his only alibi is the doppelganger that's begun stalking him.